Oh, you were supposed to dial in?
Yeah. He's supposed to go and send.
Your mics are on. Why can I hear you?
1142044. Please leave your message after the beep. Then press hash.
Hi, I'm Marlies Horn, Group Executive, Brand and Corporate Affairs at Capricorn Group.
Good day, I'm Jan Muller, the CEO of Cricket Namibia.
My name is Hilda. That's really what I like to be known as. And I work in communications and media in the country. Actually, I'm just really an entrepreneur.
And I'm Leon Joosten.
When big names speak.
Hi, this is Helena Motsing.
Hi, this is Pietro Chitembi.
My name is Ventime. I'm the Executive Chairman of the Ultra This Group.
This is Ricardo Manetti.
Hi there. My name is Agnes Chongarero. I'm the Minister in the Ministry of Sport, Youth and National Service.
This is Sebastian Deitunga.
My name is Sarah Kugongerwa Madira.
My name is Nangoro Mbumba, also known as Miki Mbumba.
They speak to Desert Radio.
All right, the time is 17 minutes after the hour of 1 o'clock, and welcome to the conversation. We do this every Thursday, and of course I'm going to be running with you for the next 45 minutes as we unpack the budget once more. Yesterday, Pombo Shini, our finance minister, according to the Namibian newspaper this morning, walked into that National Assembly like Father Christmas, and gave them a budget that is much, much expanded. And of course, as we continue to take a look at different angles of the budget, we welcome you to the conversation. We are, of course, joined by Mr. Tjipura. Of course, he is a person that's well versed with matters to do with social affairs there. We are also in the presence of economist Miss Angelique Bock, who is a voice here on radio that's not new, who constantly comments on matters to do with economics there. Mr. Tjipura, good afternoon. How are you?
Yes, good afternoon.
Doing very well, sir. Is this your first time at Desert Radio?
Yes, my first time.
We do welcome you. Miss Bock, you need no introduction, but of course we do appreciate you being here. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Kelvin.
That's right. And of course to our listeners that are on Facebook, on Facebook and our live stream on the Namibian, we do welcome you to the conversation there. Please, we want to also hear from you. Comment below this video and of course be part of the conversation all the way until 2 o'clock. The budget, is this exactly what we need? 101 billion Namibian dollars. And of course, what has been given to what? Let's talk about matters to do with tax. Let's talk about safety nets there. We do appreciate you. Good afternoon. I'd like to start with you, Ms. Bock. You are in the banking sector. And when you looked at the budget, what was the first impression that you got?
The budget is really good. Honestly, it has really improved. There are certain things that really stood out for me. For example, we are reaching 60%. And we know that, so there's this ratio called the sustainable debt ratio, which basically says that any debt below 60% is sustainable for emerging markets. So that is really, really positive for us going forward. And also, if you see the forecasts for 2025, 26, and 26, 27, you can see that is also expected to decrease to around the high 50s. So, and that's obviously off of the base of higher GDP numbers and not so much debt. But there is a very good foresight for debt management, if I could put it that way. We saw that government has allocated some of SACU revenues to the management of debt. So some of it will be going to Euro bonds and it will be placed in sinking funds, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right, yes. And we were just breaking the ice there, Ms. Tjipura. When you saw the budget, what was your immediate impression after that?
My immediate impression was it's an election year. Because I, for myself, saw it as a budget that has, election year written over it.
Right.
Because in terms of social safety nets and, as we approach the 2024 elections, they have really been strengthened. As a social activist and as one who believes in, economic and social justice, I believe the government really did us a little bit of justice in ensuring that, yes, social safety nets are, funded as well.
All right, we're gonna be getting deeper into that. Yes. Ms. Bock, government has lifted the tax bracket for ordinary workers and in the same vein lifted the VAT threshold from 500,000 to 1 million. Please speak to us about the impact of this on performances of SMEs and on improving buying power for Namibians?
So if I can first start with the SMEs, so definitely that 500k to a million increase in VAT registration basically allows businesses to basically have some more free cash available, and with that free cash they can obviously do a lot more in terms of growth for their business going forward. And we know that small businesses in our country are many and they are struggling because it is a very competitive space, especially when you are small. Like, profits are low, you basically don't have much profit to start off. It's very capital intensive if you just started off, so like for the first few years you won't be making any profit. So just having that extra 500k on an annual basis will help a lot.
That's right. Know? But is that not on the condition that inflation also does not catch up with us?
No, not as I understood it.
Not as you understood it. That's right. The tax adjustments announcement made in the previous budget of 2023-2024 is what we are now seeing, right, in terms of the threshold being increased there. And of course, we were speaking with some economists that were saying that it means that the buying power of the consumer is strengthened, much more to save as well there. And a majority of our people actually, in terms of their salaries, they earn less than 9,000 Namibian dollars. As a social activist, how have you seen that?
Yes, I've seen it as a very important thing because if you look at the economic aspect of it, individuals' disposable income is now a little bit more much, right? They can use their disposable income to afford their necessities,
right?
Because disposable income is what you get after deductions such as tax, your household bills and things like that. So definitely it has equipped individuals and businesses as well, because the demand for these goods and services that are needed by individuals from their disposable income will be higher, and revenue shall as well increase for businesses.
This is why I'm coming back to you, Ms. Bock, to say, what are your forecasts? I know it's difficult to forecast inflation, but can you say that as far as inflation is concerned, we are in a hard place?
I'd say a lot has been alleviated already. We are seeing disinflation at the moment, which means that although prices are increasing, they're not increasing at the same higher rate than what they did previously. So especially food inflation. We know food inflation hits consumers the hardest.
Right.
So I think in terms of food inflation, prices have come down a lot, or the increases of prices have come down a lot. But people are still struggling. Prices are still increasing. And I mean, this is obviously a worry for consumers. So going forward, we do see that inflation is going to ease, especially food inflation, and the signs are already there, and I mean, the talks about recession all over the world is what worries them, but what that does to inflation is obviously good because inflation eases.
That's right. And yes, the biggest story on social media right now is the story of the grants to the pensioners and of course to people that live with disabilities, and the hope was that we might actually get a 2,000 or 3,000 increase here. And we're making calculations here at the Namibian, and we're trying to take a look at how it's going to cost us in terms of paying these on a monthly basis. But then, of course, the finance minister had to increase by 200 Namibian dollars there. Did you welcome that, Ms. Tjipura?
Yes, definitely. As much as, yes, it was a want for His Excellency, the former president, it was his wish, but it wasn't as if, it's going to be put in effect. It was his wish. Per se.
They say if wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Yes.
Right.
So I believe the 200 increase, can equip, those elderlies who take care of, their grandkids.
Right.
And, because it's, as I said, their disposable income, is to increase, and, they can afford the necessary goods and services that maybe, the 200 that wasn't there before can, sort of like, provide at the end of the day.
That's right. In the name of the conversation, in the sense of in the context of our conversation, Ms. Bock, you have the likes of the leader of the official opposition saying, but look, if you give that much to the pensioners, what we are also forgetting at the back of our minds is that they are also taking care of a lot of these youths that we see on the streets that are unemployed. They fall back on their grandmothers and grandfathers, and they have to be part of that 1,600 Namibian dollars.
Yeah.
This is not the silver bullet, right? We should be seeing employment creation Are we likely going to see the numbers coming down in terms of unemployment figures this year? Are we closer to that, or we are still far from there?
I would say we are still relatively far from that. It's very hard for them to create employment now and see an impact now. But we did see that Ministry of Finance was allocated a certain amount, or it was called additional funds, to create jobs or stimulate the creation of jobs, basically. And I mean, that is not going to happen overnight. So I would say maybe only next year, but the census will definitely reveal in what situation we are currently.
Right.
With unemployment.
That's right. And of course, the budget has also been increased a little bit. We have seen 970 million capital budget to the Minister of Education, Arts and Culture to cater for the construction and renovation of classrooms. One would think, well, if we are to talk about construction, we are going to be having our workers, our young people that are in the construction sector really doing that. What do you say about that? Well, at the same time, we also know the Minister of Education has an agreement with August 26 to be the one to be constructing classrooms. Do you think the ministry needs to also maybe employ some more construction companies in order to pick up the numbers?
Yes, definitely. As much as, yes, the Ministry of Education has a particular contract with August, I believe it's necessary to avail this, contracts to other businesses, especially Namibian-owned, small and emerging, construction companies. Because in terms of creating employment or empowering, businesses, you need to provide a platform for them to grow, right? And employment doesn't create itself. The finance ministry can't create employment. The private sector has to create employment at the end of the day. So if there's no empowerment for the private sector or for Namibian-owned enterprises, I don't think employment is going to be something that we're going to achieve next year or in the next 6 months.
Right.
It's very impossible.
That's right. I'd like to come to you, Ms. Bock, there. Shimi's decision to pump more money into struggling parastatals. What does this mean in terms of showing his seriousness in encouraging self-sustenance in these parastatals? RCC, Transnamib, these state-owned enterprises that have perennially demonstrated a lack of being profitable and being sustainable, and we're throwing money there.
I mean, that's a very difficult question, Kelvin.
Right.
I must be honest. To me, I see it as they kind of between a rock and a hard place.
Right.
So what are you going to do, right? You have all these people working in these enterprises that need to go home, feed their kids, feed their wife, feed their husband, etc., right? Now you privatize these companies, and what happens? Most of these workers are then told, listen here, we don't actually need you anymore because of XYZ. We are here to gain profits, right? So then essentially a lot of people are more jobless. So, but then at the same time, money is almost being squandered. Right. But I would say it's not that bad. 512 million was given to Meatco and Transnamib, if I'm not mistaken. So in terms of the whole budget, that's really, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Ms. Tjipura?
So I think in terms of privatizing such enterprises, I think it's a thing of job losses, because these enterprises will now have to depend on themselves. And I believe, in terms of a country that's trying to curb unemployment,
right,
I don't think it's the right decision, because at the end of the day, you are technically just creating what you want to prevent. So I don't think it's effective.
We sent Air Namibia under the hammer. And after that, up to now, I don't know if we can account for how many people still are unemployed at this point. But is partial privatization the way to go then, where government also has shares here and private people also have shares here, and we allow the technical aspects of administration to the private sector, then policy direction is left in the hands of the government and they can also fund. What do you think about that, Ms. Bock?
I definitely agree with that. Like, it's two things are playing at once and both parties are winning, if you can say it like that. So there are policies in place to make sure that people aren't just laid off and it's only profit. But then at the same time, profits are also being maximized, and resources are allocated efficiently, and the utilization rate basically increases.
Right. That's right. And what do you think about the money that we've given to the Minister of Defense? Perennially, we actually give so much money to the Minister of Defense. You ask yourself, are we at war? Can we take this money and put a chunk of it to agriculture? I know these are controversial questions, but also these are perennial questions as well. Once more, we see the Minister of Defense getting one of the biggest cuts of the lion's share indeed. What do you make of that?
Honestly, personally, I feel like it's like funding a a kindergarten that doesn't have, like kids that are, able to attend the kindergarten. So you keep on investing or putting money into something that doesn't create revenue at the end of the day. So I feel like in terms of investment, government should, look at its policies on how they invest in certain, parts of, the government, because things like the military are, not that important at the moment,
right?
But maybe perhaps the administration of this institution, or maybe because of the operational costs and things like that, I believe maybe that's why they do. But it's really not necessary to spend as much as they do on defense instead of spending on things like the youth.
All right.
And,
so let me give you some figures while you're there. Defense is getting 6,743,897,000. And then let's take a look at the Ministry of Labor. Just trying to quickly, Labor, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation are getting 222 million. And the Minister of Defense is getting 8 billion. What do you think of that?
As I said again,
yeah, I'm just giving you the figures to try to see if we can come closer.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I said again, is investing into something that won't create as much as a return on investment, because investing into the the military more than investing into things like the
employment creation.
As I said, we are currently struggling with a particular problem, which is unemployment.
Right.
And in order for you to create employment is through investing into the private sector, and most importantly the informal sector,
right?
Because the informal sector right now needs investment, because if you look at what the informal sector brings to the table is a large amount, is right? But in order for this informal sector to survive, maybe from things like multinationals, government needs to ensure that there are policies that protect the informal sector. Most importantly, to ensure that these informal sectors are able to employ, most especially the youth who are unemployed.
Right.
Yes.
We have not formalized the informal sector, yet this is the biggest employment creator. If we should take a look at it, people that are in the informal sector are actually employed because they are making money. Ms. Bock, you want to make a point? All right, that's all right. Okay, so that's what you're talking about. But at the same time, I know that Ms. Bock, you are not used to being asked politically, saturated questions. Are we very deliberate about what exactly we want to do?
In terms of? In
terms of, we are talking about, we do have a bulge of young people that are not employed.
Yeah.
And at every turn we're saying we need to create employment.
Yeah.
Yet we give so much money to the Ministry of Defense, 6.7 billion. Then we give 222,000 to the Ministry of Labor and Employment Creation.
Yeah.
Is there not something very fishy here? Are we deliberate about what exactly do we want to do?
I can hear where you're alluding the question to,
right?
But I'm not going to touch on that. You see, the problem is with Ministry of Defense is now you take away that budget allocation, right? And then the Ministry of Defense sits and decides, okay, well, we just have to let go of some of these people. And then they are unemployed as well. So then the unemployment pool just grows.
Okay.
So it's like they
are also trying to...
They are in such a hard place,
right.
And one can only commend them for the hard work that they do and the allocation that they do. But I mean, to what you have said previously, you can't question whether there is something fishy or not.
All right.
But also,
Ms. Tjipura?
Yes, but also if you look at it, if we create employment in other sectors, we won't have to sort of like make the military, survive just because it's creating jobs. So maybe if you bring in things like, the BIG, if you bring in many other aspects that can, equip individuals with economic freedom to be, economically active within the economy, then I don't think investing into things like the military is necessary, because at the end of the day, just military or whatever, are they getting the necessary skills they need to move on? Because we have moved into the fourth industrial revolution, right? But you find people who are part of the military that are, getting trained on certain things that are even useless at the end of the day.
All right. My father is an army general, and he managed to actually train to be a mechanic, which is something very commendable, right? I know that's where you are trying to also get it, because beyond the military, there's life. Beyond the military, you also need to be a business person. I mean, we have got Sisa Namanje, we do have Kadila Momo. These guys are coming from the military.
Wow.
And the skills that they have, I'm sure they also managed to develop those while they were in the military as well there. And Ms. Bock, I want to come back to you there. But while we're still talking talking about youth unemployment and matters to do with youth and how this budget is speaking to the youth. The fact that the Youth and Sports Ministry has seen a budget increase of 45.3% to 679 million Namibian dollars, is that commendable?
Definitely. Right. And I mean, it's mostly in the development part, or the growth is mostly in the development part, and that's really good news going forward, because now instead of you sitting at home, you have more options available, because they want to build youth sports programs, etc., and they want to fix the Independence Stadium finally. So I mean, these are all things that will just lead the youth out of away from temptation.
A difficult place.
Yes.
That's right. Now, immediately we take a look at the paragons of success in the sporting sector. We do have Mboma now, Masilingi. We do have our Frankie Fredericks. We do have Peter Shalolile. These are men and women that have risen to the fore as sportswomen and sportsmen, and have actually demonstrated that you can be successful. Are we taking advantage of these examples to further expand the sporting sector, make it more attractive for young people and turn it into a business?
Yes, I think if you look at people like Boma, Boma has her own brand right now, and I'm one of the ambassadors for her brand. So I believe it's very important that we diversify where we put the youth. Not just maybe in terms of academics, become a lawyer or become, a doctor, but diversify skills, or diversify where you put, when you invest, into the youth.
Right.
Because people like Boma now have their own brands. She's famous, she's getting a name for herself. And look where she came from.
Right.
Yes.
Taking a look at Nigeria, the entertainment space, especially the movie industry, is the biggest employment creator, and the government has come in to put money there as well. Ms. Bock, I want to take you back into the laboratory. Talk to us about the importance of Shimi's decision in pumping more money into the health, education, and social sectors. Let's take a look at health, for instance. I was speaking with the health minister yesterday, Kalumbi Shango. He said to me, for the first time since independence, we got the highest budget of 10 billion. We've never been there. What does that say when it comes to access to health?
That means that access to health should improve. And we know that this is a struggle in our country. We know that access to healthcare is a big, big struggle. I mean, for a while last year, you heard people complaining about there are no basic medication in the state hospital. I mean, the state hospital that's supposed to be able to cater to everybody. But now you're forcing people to go to private medical aids to go get proper access to healthcare, right? And what does that do? That leaves the poor person, right, struggling, waiting in long queues, dying while waiting in long queues because of poor access to healthcare. And I mean, this is also reflecting in the development side, of the healthcare budget, where they are doing upgrades to Kavekotora, which they have already mentioned last year.
Right.
And they are also renovating the district hospital in Havana.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Health?
In terms of health, access to health, I consider the fact that yes, government is investing as much as they did within the health sector.
Right.
But also we need to raise the awareness of getting to the health. As much as yes, Kavekotora Hospital is renovated and everything is there.
Right.
Can the individuals get from where they are to the hospital? Is the accessibility in terms of the proximity, right? I think as much as yes, we can renovate Kavekotora Hospital.
Right.
I feel like it's important to see where you can bring the health to the people.
Right.
Right. But if we can't, then I believe we should equip individuals.
Are you insinuating or inferring to the possibility of us putting across mobile clinics?
Yes, mobile clinics.
Right, especially in rural areas.
Especially in rural areas,
there you go.
Yes.
Right. So education gets 18 billion Namibian dollars. They always get the biggest chunk, these guys. And yet, Namibians were not happy when our results came this year. The ministry itself was saying, look, we are making progress here. We're coming from the lowest of the low, and we are at least here. But the people said we cannot celebrate small progress. 18 billion. What should we expect from the ministry?
I mean, that 18 billion we know is just going to operational costs. It's just to pay wages. And I mean, they announced now that they want to renovate and build 15 new classrooms. And what is 15 new classrooms going to do, in my honest opinion? I mean, this is good. This is good. there is development in the sector for once, but we know that it just goes to salaries. And at the end of the day, we hear students complaining that teachers don't arrive for class. You know, they get to class, there's no teacher. But also like there are other issues that's causing the teacher not to get to the class. So at this point, you are dealing with a lot of social issues that all add up to the grades of students not showing up where they should be. And also the change of the curriculum was drastic. And I think that is causing a lot of failure right now in our youth, or our young youth.
That's right, young youth. There we go. 1:42 p.m. the time right here on Desert Radio. Of course, you're listening to The Conversation, starting, of course, all the way from 1:15. We are steadily taking this ship towards 2 o'clock as we talk about the budget itself. We are with Mr. Tjipura. Tjipura is social and human rights activist right here in Namibia, as well as Miss Bock, Angelique Bock, I should say. She's an economist right here in the country and putting perspectives to the budget. Thank you so much for following us on the Namibian Facebook page. We want to see your comments down, and of course we'll be reading those comments as well right here on Desert Radio. Of course, be part of the conversation. You can give us a call as well here on Desert Radio. And yes, talking about the Minister of Education, let's take it a little bit higher. The Minister of Higher Education, Innovation, Technology, NASFAF. What do we expect from NASFAF, Mr. Tjipura?
As a NASFAF beneficiary myself,
right?
Honestly, I am tired of NASFAF. I'm tired of their promises. I'm tired of how they do their things. Because reverting back to myself once again, I rented out, I used to rent last year, right?
Right.
And I used to pay my rent with my NASFAF fees. But you'd get some of the months, NASFAF is deciding, no, you're not getting any money. You're not getting the 2.4 or 2.5 that we used to get monthly, right? Because when they decided, okay, no, we're giving this, this funds monthly, we were really happy. Those of us, who struggle with accommodation. But is this, is it continuous? Is it consistent? Which is not. Because even if you look at the current situation right now this year, we haven't received anything from NASFAF, right? Most importantly, the senior students. And people moved into the accommodations and everything. So I think NASFAF should really look into what it's doing again.
Right.
And administrative, and see, is what we are doing consistent? Because I feel like also they should address and look at these issues with the people on the ground.
Right.
When they're making these policies, they should discuss these things with NANSO and various other student organizations,
right,
to see as to what is it that we are doing, and is it consistent, is it effective, and are we delivering to the people that we are serving? Because currently, honestly speaking, they are not.
That's right. Ms. Bock, I'll come to you on the revenue collection. I just want to get your impression in terms of how much we've collected so far. While we are at it, students at institutions of higher learning, and very soon via the Minister of Higher Education, we shall see disbursements being made to UNAM and NAST. And with this expanded budget, what is the state of e-learning and access to Wi-Fi on campus?
With regards to where I attend, which is NAST,
right?
Internet is provided by the school itself, and I feel like that's effective. But one problem we see is maybe perhaps at where we live, right? Because you find students who live in places like Havana, or Chomise, or where there isn't sufficient supply of the internet, or they simply can't afford to buy Wi-Fi. So I believe also they should bring back the pocket Wi-Fis that they used to give before, because I feel like it's very important that you are sort of like online and you can access these things, because most of the things like quizzes which contribute to our case marks are online. But one has to stay on campus maybe like until 10 p.m. and just to do their quizzes, right? So I think in terms of safety as well, in terms of just the process of it, it's very stressful for students.
That's right.
Yes.
Now, I understand the place that you are in, Ms. Bock. You are an economist, but we are social scientists and political scientists, and we have to take you through the politics of economics as well. But I still want to take you back into your territory, the familiar territory there. Our revenue collection stood at 72 billion Namibian dollars. The rate of collection was 90.6%. I asked you this question to Ali Angula in the morning. Should we clap hands for Namra?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That is really, really good. I mean, that just shows that their administrative efficiencies have really improved, and you can see it in the numbers reflecting. And I mean, we know that many people have had struggles with NAMRA, although some people still have struggles with NAMRA. It is becoming less, and that is very positive for investment in the country, because even outside investor can see, oh, this African country really deals with their tax well, and things are on time, and I don't have issues always with them.
Right.
They'll be like, oh, let me bring my money and come invest in this country.
Right.
Let me build a building. You know? And that is very good for growth.
That's right. I still want to ask you this question. Yet we have been grey listed.
Yeah.
With our expanded budget.
Yeah.
What can we do now? Last year we were under pressure. We need to come up with legislation, various pieces of legislation that speaks to combating illicit financial flows and money laundering. And our National Assembly was actually on the overdrive. And there was criticism. Are we going to be giving quality legislation out there when you are running out against time like that? Then we run out against time. Then we come up with the legislation. We give it over to FATF, and they say, this is still not good enough. What do you expect from the lawmakers? Another round of consultations and re-strengthening our legislation?
Most probably that's what they'll have to do. I mean, they said 13 out of the how many requirements weren't fully met, and I mean that's just what they have to do. They have to sit and consult and see how they can better this.
Right.
And this is really out of the space of the Minister of Finance. He can't really do anything about it, or neither can NAMRA. But this is a compliance matter, basically.
And it's a multi-stakeholder issue also.
Yeah.
I would like you to educate us a little bit about grey listing, because there are people that think that, oh my goodness, the world has ended. Oh, we cannot trade anymore. There's actually a politician, a unionist yesterday, that said, oh, it means we cannot trade with anyone.
No.
What does it mean that we've been grey listed, that we are actually grey listed?
So to be grey listed, and I'm also speaking under correction, is that we have not met certain compliance matters, right? And being compliant means like making sure that if you say your employee has a degree in X, you can show that that degree in X is there. Something simple like as that. But obviously there are bigger matters at hand when it comes to compliance. But that's just it. Also, just making sure that you're not getting your money from terrorism funding, and no money laundering is happening, no fraud is happening. So that's about it. It doesn't mean that we cannot trade anymore, or
Right. That's right.
receive SACU receipts, etc., etc.
Thank you for the clarity there. We are steadying the ship. Of course, 10 more minutes to go before we can say goodbye on the conversation. We are looking at your comments on the Namibian Facebook page. We are also really happy and appreciative of the fact that you have taken your time to join us right here on the conversation. My name is Kelvin Chiringa once again. I'm with Mr. Tjipura, a social and human rights activist right here in Namibia, and Miss Angelique Bock. We are breaking the atoms of the budget in pieces so that we see where the devil is in the detail there. And yes, politicians from the opposition side of things yesterday were not happy with the expansionary budget. They are saying, why now? It's an election year. Is SWAPO trying to get the pensioners on their side? Is the SWAPO party trying to get the youth on their side by expanding the budget of the youth ministry? Are these concerns legitimate at all? It's just politics.
I think it's a political game, because I think even the oppositions themselves discussed these things in parliament before.
Is everybody playing a political game? The SWAPO party, which is in charge of the government, and the opposition political parties as well?
Yes, I think it is. Because if you look at the previous discussions in parliament, right, things like the old age, grant have been requested for, increment and things like that. In investment on the youth, it was a request. Why would you, spend more on the military instead of the youth? And we got what we wanted.
Right.
So I think also if you look at it in a political aspect, they can use that to say, okay, no, why is it just now that these things are being increased? Is it because it's an election year? Because even on my statuses, everybody's saying, no, this budget has election written all, written all of it.
Right.
So I think it's a thing of, yes, they did deliver, But why now?
All right. It's a flat ball for me to pass to an economist. I don't want to drive politics too much your side, Ms. Bock. But, when we are coming up with our budget, there has to be consultation, really, with the experts. You are an economist there. You are also in the Society of Economists. Is there consultation from the Minister of Finance? In as much as you know, is it really a big thing within the circles of economists that we get to be consulted to also give our advice in terms of what you should put in there?
So how it actually works is that each ministry submits the budget to the Minister of Finance, right? So it's the ministry's responsibility to consult smaller groups to actually find out what is happening. And you do expect that should be happening because they have forces in play, like for example economists in the ministries itself, to find out what's happening in each sector of their big sector, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So me personally, I have not been consulted. I don't know of anybody else who's been consulted, but that's why we write our research reports. That's essentially why, to make sure that, hey, even though you think the budget is good, we might not think that. Or even though you think the budget is bad, actually it's really good, for example. So if am I answering your question?
You are actually. you are also economic prophets, I should say. You look into the crystal ball of the economic future and you make predictions. How does 2024 look like in terms of economic performance?
That's a very tough question because I haven't looked at it yet. But I would say it does look promising. But there are obviously some offset effects. We are seeing that the economy is slowing, and that's because of the high interest rates that we have been experiencing recently. And we only expect interest rates to be cut towards the latter end of the second half. And that's obviously going to dampen growth right now. We are seeing high private sector credit extension. So that means that households will not be taking out further debt really unless they have to. And also the higher rates aren't really very pleasing for foreign investors. So once rates come down, we can really see a more positive look for the economy. But going forward, there are a lot of developments taking place. The oil is driving GDP to an all-time high. I did this little exercise where if we took out mineral exploration from GDP would have only grown by 2.2 to 3% in the last quarter that they published, in the third quarter of last year. But because of oil, it has been pushed to 7%.
Right.
So that is major. So
those are the growth figures that we're looking for.
Yes.
So we are now in our final quarter, right?
We are in our first quarter now.
First quarter now.
Yeah.
All right. We're done with the final quarter.
Yes.
All right. It's called economic palm reading. What she's doing there, reading the palms of the economy and predicting the future. We do appreciate that. We really do value that data when you give it over to us as the media. It gives us a sense of where we are going. We are getting closer to the end of the conversation, Mr. Tjipura. How can we educate people in Kavekotora, in Matutura, in Twaloloka, people in Omundaungilo about the budget?
Sure.
I think the financial literacy initiative, which is run or which is under the finance ministry, is there.
Right.
But what I think also one thing that the Minister of ICT alludes every time, or the newly
installed minister, Emma, you're right.
Yeah, Emma Teofeles, is the aspect of inclusive information sharing. Because I feel like as much as the financial literacy initiative does have public lectures and things, but are those public lectures available to for everyone? Because things like the budget is very complex, are very complex. So I think it's very important that the financial literacy initiative, as much as these things are in the different languages, yes they are, but can these individuals comprehend this information?
Right.
Do they know what's debt to GDP ratio, what debt accumulation,
what it means, right?
Yes, what it means. So I feel like in terms of comprehension, they should work with the relevant stakeholders, or consult with people to see as to how can they make this information more appealing, and how can these individuals in Kavekotora or Shandumbala comprehend this information.
Right. Ms. Bock, is this a disjuncture from the pattern of fiscal consolidation that has been, coming through all the way from 2015 when the construction sector fell and our economy got into depression mode from there. And College Straight Vine was talking about we need to tighten our belts. Is this budget saying tighten your belts or loosen your belts?
Wow, that's a very...
Another difficult one.
That's a difficult question.
Now, I feel for you because you are the one who has to answer. I have to ask.
I mean,
I feel for you, yes.
It has a bit of both. I would say more to the loose side.
Right.
I mean, with the tax reforms on the household, it's like, okay, yeah, loosen your belts a bit. But on the company side, it might be a bit tough because they have like, although they decrease company corporate taxes, there are like other loopholes where they are kind of getting that money, basically double taxing companies. And I mean, in terms of development, it's really saying loosen your belts. Big things are coming. You can be excited. So I'd say it leans more towards loosening the belt.
Loosening the belt.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you the same question before we close. Are we loosening the belts? Should we loosen the belts? Should we trust this, or really it's because it's an election year?
I should loosen it with a little bit of backup.
Right.
I can say yes. just in case. Just in case. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Our conversation right here has been quite exciting. Really speaking with Miss Angelique Bock, of course, an economist, as well as Mr. Tjipura, a social rights activist right here on a Desert Radio. 3 minutes to go to 2 o'clock. I would like to release our guests at this particular point, but of course we will go through your comments on the Namibian Facebook page. We do appreciate you really being loyal to this program every Thursday. That's what we do from 1:15 o'clock until 2 o'clock. Mr. Tjipura, for the time that you gave us, we do appreciate you. We hope that next time we have you again.
Definitely.
That's right. Miss Bock, we appreciate you. We constantly speak to you over the phone, but today you said I would rather go there and speak with the people. We appreciate you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Kelvin.
That's right. Exactly 2 minutes to go to 2 o'clock there. Of course, I'll just say goodbye from this point. Of course, do have a productive remainder of the day.
When big names speak.
My name is Leda Kasingo. I'm a current Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly.
This is Sam Shivute, a transformational coach and the Commissioner of Namibia Revenue Agency.
Hi.